Hi guys, we are back on track again. It's been an interesting couple of days or weeks or months or years. What can I say? Today is Wednesday and yes it is, because I just went to the market and I got my veg, which I always do Wednesday morning if I need any, that is. And I also just pulled a couple of cards because I wanted to get the focus right for this video that I want to make. We have been having connection issues going on, really. And it's so important to us nowadays, to my husband and me, that I want to talk about this at length, I hope, if I get this thing going. And the cards I got are the Fool, there he is right there, and the Emperor, number 2, right there, totally in control of his universe. And the 7 of Cups, which is really a beautiful card right there. One of the prettiest 7 of Cups cards, really, I think. Connection, yes. I said last week, don't fight yourself because it's such a waste, right? I'm trying to sort of link back to that now because I kind of discovered again. It looks like I keep discovering the same thing over and over again, and each time it's just from a slightly different perspective or what have you. I find it incredibly impressive how we have incorporated, how exactly did we incorporate perspectives from our parents while we were growing up, right? Make them our own, actually, from a desire of connection, a desire to connect with them, love for them, right? Engaged us to connect with our parents again and again. However, if you're a child of divorced parents, like myself and my husband, we are both children of divorced parents, what you do is you incorporate both those perspectives, and they are fighting each other, and we have been fighting ourselves. Parts of ourselves have been fighting each other within us for as long as we can remember, both of us. And sometimes we are at odds with each other, and if we manage to just tune down slightly all the emotion and all the nervousness and all the anxiety and the fatigue and all the rest of it, and use our brains for a bit, after a while you start to see that there are patterns underneath which really are those same patterns again. We have so I've been trying for myself and for my husband as well to distinguish the parts where you're seeing your parents when you're a kid, right? You're a toddler or whatever age, and they behave a certain way in order for them to like you or to be okay with you. Apparently, you needed to conform to their reality. It's such a deep thing, really. We have become committed to all sorts of realities, and the sum total of those realities has become our reality. Whereas the only real thing that matters is the fact that you love them so much, that you cared about them. And it is not just the need of a child in order to survive, you have to. I think it's much more than that. yeah, I think that's a big point here. That's one of the first things that I really want to stress, is that it's not just that you need your parents to survive as a toddler. When you're 2 years old, you need to be mateys with them. Otherwise, they're going to leave you out in the cold, and you'll starve and you'll die very soon. I think that for my husband and myself, if I speak for just both of us, I can see that it was genuine caring that came out of those two little kids, those two children who had nothing to lose and everything to gain by going out towards those people. When you come onto this planet, you're like a vessel of love, and you have no hidden agendas, you have no hidden needs or perspectives or any of it. You're not selfish, you're not interested, you're capable and willing to give yourself away completely. And so I think that's also what the Seven of Cups cards refers to here, because I have a very strong opposition, if you like, between the Fool and the Emperor, who are like the two positions of utter abandon and surrender on the one hand, and utter control and dominion and I would say stewardship of some sort with the Emperor, where you're supposed to, always choose, or you're always trying to be in control, or trying to surrender and be in control of that and make it as complicated as possible. And behind all that is this big dream, right? The dream of the Seven of Cups, the card that I've had 1 trillion times, and maybe so have you, I don't know. It's like one of my cards that always keeps coming out of the desire for being seen, the impossible, unrealizable, if that's a word, desire for connection. And so what I have sort of discovered for myself, and what I have been trying to apply from there on out to what my husband has been going through in just ordinary everyday struggle to make things happen, right? To keep his peckers up, so to speak. Peckers, or just one pecker? I don't know. You have to tell me. There's been quite a lot of conflict. In the case of my parents, the conflict was explicit, obvious, in your face, dramatic, and some of it was way over the top and could have been, been dialed down quite a lot without any harm done. I think a lot of harm was done from over dramatizing in my case. So that's one thing that I have had to deal with, especially in myself, of course. And in my husband's case, the situation was rather different, because the people, especially as when he was a small child, they didn't fight all that much. And I am we're trying to sort of excavate memories that are sure to be there, but most of the stuff that we find is pretty bland. It's, moving house a couple of times and having friends here or friends somewhere else. There isn't that much about the interaction between his parents. It's just, what I am saying is just going from the behaviors that I have seen from his parents when they were alive, both of them. They're both gone now. Was a tendency to be dominant and or feel misunderstood. Actually, they both felt misunderstood, basically. And so that's where one of the things that happen, right? People feel misunderstood in their lives. Those people were like born in the 1930s, so they had a tough life. They had to go through the Second World War and all that. So they they had a lot on their plate, and everybody of that generation felt misunderstood. Duh. I mean, yeah, that's one thing I can only... what I'm struck by is how hard it is for humanity to generate individual consciousness and sovereignty for you and me and everybody else out of a collective world that has... It's like magic, really, when you come to think about it. But it's very hard and painful magic. Like, it's tough. It's individual sacrifices over and over again. And a lot of the pitfalls that people enter into is that you start your life with all this love and this need and desire for connection, right? This desire for oneness with all those people. And those people are encapsulated in a sense of self-righteousness and entitlement because they're in a state of chronic pain and abandonment and feeling misunderstood. And, so they project my parents, his parents, in particular that generation, projected an aura of self-righteousness around them 24/7. And as a kid, you were born in a different generation, your planets are different, everything is completely different, and you are coming at it with a clean slate, so to speak, and you are being engulfed in the matrix, in the machine of self-righteousness and pain and I think you're great so long as you do what I like. And if your parents don't agree with each other, and one of them is the willful one, or stubborn, or creative, or being an artist, or that type of stuff. And the other one is more conventional and doesn't see the need for all those things and wants to be left in peace, and does things. There is always manipulation going on between all those people, and it's from that situation of not having any other proper tools to survive, of course. So I am trying to also show that it's not the whole time about them. It is what we have ourselves incorporated from them and the shape they took in our consciousness is different from those people, who they really were, okay? Inside me, I'm going to talk about myself now. I have my father, I have my mother, but they are not those people. I must really remind myself of that because it's so easy to believe I copied that from this guy, I copied that from her, okay? And to a certain extent, I did. However, you can only copy it with your colors, with your pencil, with your material of your consciousness. And because that's what I have done, the identification has become so strong. If it was only an information file of this person or that person stuck in my brain, I could take it out and no harm done or nothing would be. But I am attached because in fact and in truth and in life, I am attached to myself. What can I do? I can't just, drop my hands and walk away and leave them lying on the floor. Zombie mode. That doesn't work. I am completely enmeshed. It's like ivy growing all over a house. If you have a really old house with really old ivy plants growing all over it, and you have to try and get the ivy out of the house, you won't succeed. The roots have gone into the cement. It's that close. It's that strong a connection because it is my connection to both my parents. They were at war. They were fighting. And so they continued fighting inside my brain because there's I accepted the disharmony between them as a fact. I accepted this person's anger and that person's anger, and it just all became part of me, unconditionally, so to speak. I made no conditions. I didn't say when I was 4 years old, I'll have that piece of your identity, thank you very much, but not the other one, or that, or the other 3 bits. Because I don't like anger, I don't like disharmony, I don't like no, I'm not having. I didn't. When I was 4 years old, I just guzzled it all up. It just went down, and that's where it stayed. So all I could do really was sit there and be scared. And it turns out fear for our lives, I suppose, is a common factor for both my husband and myself, and we find it quite hard to deal with because actually our parents come between us. His parents are long gone, my parents are either long gone or out of the picture, and we're sitting here, we're both over 50 years old, and we manage to still have the spooks of the Cold War between us. And so my technique nowadays, again, based on the completion process by Teal Swan, I'm working with that the whole time, is to, first of all, remind myself again and again and again, and 100 times again if I have to, that this thing here that I'm having here, or this reaction, or this pattern, or this thought, or this idea, this opinion, whatever it is, that I inherited from my mother, by now, it isn't hers anymore. It is mine. It is alive because it is mine, because it is my opinion. So I have to rework everything, right? I have to reinterpret a lot of things. Most of it is behind the scenes, in my intuition, in my gut feeling, somewhere in my body even, that I'm trying to readjust and basically each time allow for whatever it is that it has to say. And the fact that I've already said a couple of times, that I accept consciousness as being a multi-layered thing, that's essential in this type of process, because that's how I manage, okay? I don't really move myself all the way into that part, because then I'd be completely miserable and I'd be lost again. So I have to sort of combine all these levels of consciousness, of emotion in one life, okay? So that's what I'm trying to do, basically. And one good thing that has come out of it nowadays, and it's been quite a bit of a struggle. That makes me giggle because I'm coming out of it. So having had the struggle and then coming out of it is a bit of a giggle for me, yes. I'm back to oil painting. I shouldn't probably talk about this unless I actually have the thing finished, which I haven't, not by a long shot yet. But I just can't help myself because it's quite exciting. I've done a bit of oil painting in the past couple of years, on and off, you know, just one day or two. And the great advantage of the technique of oil painting for me is that you can always come back to something. You can always, even 5 or 10 years later, you can come back into painting and start all over again, or start wherever you left off, or whatever it is you want to add or change. You can always do new things to it. And yeah, so I used to do oil painting. I sort of self-taught myself. So I have a bit of my personal approach about oil painting. I love doing it. because it's much more of a long-term activity, other than, you know, the drawings and the little things that I've shown you and the cards and all that. If I am talking of oil painting, especially a, you know, bit hefty, larger canvas, it means planning, as well as nowadays sort of feeling what it is that I want to make, right? And combining those two things. Before, in the previous period, there was a period when my mother had just passed away, about a year after that, so it's 1996 or thereabouts, to, I suppose, 2002, 3-ish, around those years. I spent almost all of my time doing oil paints, and I made a lot of stuff. Not all of it is has been quite successful, and some work I've just enjoyed doing so much, because you have the grand surface, you have a beautiful substance of paint that just does whatever you want it to do. You have gorgeous colors in all sorts of different spectrums, so both very bright rainbowy colors and earth tones, just great white, even just there's a lemony white that I use a lot to create little effects of lighting or something like that. And if you just I always say, if you just rub it onto the canvas with your thumbs like that, it's going to be pretty, because it's top quality oil paint. And so that's one thing. And they're natural substances, natural pigments that go in, and I just think it's the most beautiful product in the world. So I've done a lot of painting in those years, in that period, and after that I started work and I didn't have the time anymore. Especially I didn't have the focus. So there's been this huge gap of 11 or 12 or 13 years that I almost haven't touched any of those, brushes or tubes or any of it, because I didn't have the focus. And so now I am coming back to it, and I can see the difference, right? I can see that as a person, as a living human being, I make my work in a completely different way from how I used to do it. Because whenever I used to do this before, it was because, number one, I had this image in my head, an image, often just something imagined or a natural scene, and there used to be little figures in, or I had a phase where I drew skeletons, especially. That was a lot of fun. There was a sense of identification with those figures and those skeletons and the actions, the activities they were engaged in and all that at that time. But it was just like this tiny, narrow band where I kind of put something of myself. Of course, it was all me, which is weird, right? I put what I had into the painting. I always did. I used to draw women also. There are lots of women and lots of, blue skies or dark blue backgrounds with trees and stuff and that type of thing. And people and women, basically. So I was always drawing myself. I was looking for who I could be as an artist and as a conveyor of images and of landscapes and of some form of symbolism or interaction between figures and what have you. And but nowadays it's so much more personal. And I realized that yesterday morning, I was taking a shower, and I had taken out the oil paints, and I had sort of done this single. I'm going to show it to you once it's properly, you know, underway, because now I'm just in a phase where it's all messed up, really. I can see what I want with this thing, but I'm gonna try and, you know, move over like this a bit, or is that even worse? No, that's okay. So you can see me, you know, like that. I have had to sort of drag my head around from being, you know, all over the place with cards and YouTube and people and, you know, making dinner and doing the house and all the rest of it. I have had to sort of, you know, grab myself by the ponytail and push myself to take the oil painting seriously again. And because I can do this. I can do this in a way that's completely satisfying. I'm going to move you around again to the other side, like this, because the sun is coming out through the tree now, and so you get this horrible blob, or you see me properly. There you go. This should do for now. I can do more with oil paint than with any other medium. I can. It's a medium, it's a technique that is so versatile, so receptive, so open and willing that as a consequence, the demand on me as a maker of things is much higher. And so that's stressful, right? On the other hand, I have realized that I can now express things as how things are part of my life, and that is something that actually matters, whereas it used to be a lot more impersonal, is more or less what I'm trying to say here. So oil painting is also something that my dad used to do painstakingly, you know, making beautiful, smooth, creamy surfaces on skin or what have you. And I have one particular very fond memory of a painting that he made when I was, I suppose, 5 years old or something like that, of a mother and child figure with an aura around a halo, a saint's halo around the woman's head, I believe. I have a faint memory of it, but done in gold with thin lines and transparent, almost like it was like a filigree of some sort, translucent, so you could see stuff through it. I was nuts about that because I loved that. And even now, I get upset again talking about this because I had so little of that. He made so many beautiful things, and I was never really a part of it. He made I don't think it was in that painting. It was just a Lucrezia Borgia, figure. And my mother hated it because she used to have to sit for that, and he was messed up. It was messed up. They were kooky, both of those. But I love the technique, and I love the colors and the way everything just sort of seemed to disappear in the focus of the work, right? When he was busy with that, he wasn't shouting at anybody else. So, yeah. So I'm trying to come to terms with all that and become friends with my oil paints again. And incredibly, the tubes just last forever because I can still open them. You know, sometimes you have to unscrew them, but the paint inside is still perfect. And I use a bit of different types of oils and stuff. So it's about, it's about generating that dream again. And this time it is a dream of wholeness. And I suppose that's what I can do, is just to offer again and again that if it's in a small card or in a video or in a painting or any other way I have, it's images, because we are a people of images, and we like to to have stuff shown to us. And maybe it's just, you know, a game that we're good at, really. And the real work is done behind the scenes, of course. So, having said that, it takes up a lot of energy, even though I have decided that as far as the painting in question that I'm, you know, talking about the whole time, as far as that goes, I have done yesterday what I can do about it, and now it has to stand and dry for a week or so. And then we will move on next week. We will move on from there, maybe Monday or Tuesday or something, to see what we can do in terms of details and better light and better, you know, better everything. But mainly, I've managed to salvage the bit of the painting that I really like, and I can, to the extent that it isn't completely, you know, there's a water surface in there with a mirroring of a piece of the image, and the lines on the surface of the water are, you know, there's bits where it's just had to go, but I can do that again because that's, yeah, and it's just it's quite the atmosphere is going to be very welcoming, I think. So that's the idea. So it's a bit of a lengthy, rambly update, I suppose. I think the part about knowing where we are. I don't suppose I ever know really where I am, but I am getting more flexible and I am getting better at, because I'm not so scared anymore that I will be thrown out of the house, which is basically what the painting is also about. So, see, it's always the same thing. Nothing is ever really lost, is one other motto that I tend to use lately a lot, because when you need it, it's there, right? It comes back to you. You have kept the things of value. So I hope that makes sense somehow. So I hope I don't look too much like a very grumpy old lady. I think I do. I'm really doing quite well. I'm also a bit fuzzy in the head, and that is because I haven't been outside enough. Because one thing, you know, turpentine and vapors and more incense to counteract the vapors from the turpentine. So all in all, you have no oxygen left in your brain whatsoever. So that's why I look like a bat, zombie bat, right there. I will be going out this afternoon to do a bit of shopping on the other end of my village, on the bike probably, and it's cold outside. It's 3.5 degrees, so we're slowly getting used to a bit more wintry circumstances, and people are telling us that we're going to be in for quite a winter, you know, snow and stuff. So we'll see about that when it happens, and I will film it for you to have a look at. Thank you very much, guys, again for being here, and I suppose I will be keeping you updated whenever I have something to add to the tale. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.